As she sat watching the world go by, something caught her eye. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see if she could better understand what it was and where it was going, but it didn't help. As she continued to stare into the distance, she didn't understand why this uneasiness was building inside her body. A man is driven by purpose. Deep within every man is a desire to fulfill something greater than himself, to build, to lead, to create, and to leave a legacy. He may not always articulate it, and he may not even fully understand it himself, but it is there. It is woven into his identity. This is why a man is drawn to the voice that speaks to his purpose rather than just his presence. When you speak to a man, you must understand that his heart responds not only to love, but to affirmation of his mission. Many women make the mistake of only complimenting a man's looks, his charm, or his actions in the moment. While these things can make him feel good temporarily, they do not anchor him to you. A man will gravitate toward the woman who recognizes the depth of who he is and the greatness of who he can become. It is easy to tell a man that he is handsome, strong, or successful. And while he may appreciate those words, they do not ignite him the way purpose-driven words. When you speak to his purpose, you remind him that he was created for something greater, and that recognition stirs something powerful inside of him. Tell him that you see his potential, that you recognize his leadership, that you admire his discipline and determination. Tell him that his ideas matter, that his dreams are worth pursuing, that his voice carries weight. When a man hears these things from a woman, he does not forget them. Those words do more than flatter, they fuel him. Think about this. Men are often expected to carry heavy burdens, to be providers, protectors, and decision makers, but rarely do they hear words that remind them of why they do it. The world will acknowledge a man for what he achieves, but few will speak to the foundation of who he is. If you are the voice that reminds him of his purpose, you will not be easily replaced. You will become the place where he is recharged, the person he turns to when he needs to remember why he started in the first place. It is also important to understand that a man's ego and his purpose are not the same. Feeding a man's ego is temporary. It makes him feel good in the moment, but it does not anchor him. Feeding his purpose, however, leaves a lasting imprint on his life. It gives him something to build on. If you only focus on stroking his ego, you are merely playing into his emotions. But if you focus on affirming his purpose, you are speaking to his spirit. And when you reach a man's spirit, you reach the deepest part of him. This is why great men often talk about the influence of a wise woman in their lives. Whether it was a mother, a wife, or a mentor, they remember the voices that spoke to their destiny, not just their desires. If you want a man to be addicted to you, do not just tell him that he is good, tell him that he is great. Tell him that his vision is worth pursuing. Tell him that his character is what sets him apart. Tell him that the way he thinks, the way he leads, and the way he builds matters. And do not just say these things when everything is going well. The true test of whether your words carry weight is how you speak to him when he is doubting himself, when he is tired, when he is questioning whether he is enough. That is when your voice matters the most. If you can remind him of his purpose in the moments when he is ready to give up, he will always remember you as the one who saw him when others only saw his struggle. A man does not just need a woman who is present, he needs a woman who is prophetic. A woman who can see beyond where he is today and speak to where he is going. This does not mean lying to him or giving him empty praise. It means speaking truth in a way that calls him higher. Even when you need to correct him or challenge him, do it in a way that aligns with his purpose. Do not just tell him what he did wrong. Remind him of who he is and what he is capable of. This kind of speech is powerful because it is rare. The average conversation a man has in a day is filled with expectations, demands, and surface-level talk. But when he meets a woman who speaks with intentionality, with vision, and with insight, he takes notice. Her words become a safe place, a source of strength, and a reminder of his greater calling. If you learn to speak to a man's purpose, you will never have to wonder where you stand with him, because a man never forgets the woman who helped him see himself clearly. He never walks away from the one who believed in his vision when no one else did. He never takes for granted the one who reminded him of his strength when he felt weak. So if you want to capture a man's heart, do not waste your words on temporary flattery. Speak life into him. Speak destiny over him. Speak to the king inside him, and he will treat you like his queen. As she sat watching the world go by, something caught her eye. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see if she could better understand what it was and where it was going, but it didn't help. As she continued to stare into the distance, she didn't understand why this uneasiness was building inside her body. A man does not just desire love, he desires respect. It is woven into the core of his being, shaping how he sees himself and how he interacts with the world. Love may nurture him, but respect empowers him. When a man feels respected, he rises to the occasion. He feels a sense of responsibility, honor, and duty. On the other hand, when he feels disrespected, he withdraws, becomes defensive, or even shuts down. The way you speak to a man determines how he responds to you. Many women assume that showing love is enough, but a man interprets love through the lens of respect. He does not just want to be cared for, he wants to be admired. When you talk to him in a way that affirms his worth, acknowledges his efforts, and expresses confidence in his ability to lead, you are speaking directly to his heart. A man wants to feel like he is valued, not just needed. Respect is not just about saying the right words. It is about the tone, the timing, and the sincerity behind those words. A man can tell when words are spoken out of obligation versus when they come from a place of genuine admiration. Simple statements like, "I appreciate how hard you work," "I trust your judgment," or "I believe in you," can have a profound impact. These words don't just stroke his ego, they affirm his purpose and his role in your life. Disrespect, on the other hand, is one of the quickest ways to push a man away. It is not always about yelling or being harsh. Sometimes it is the subtle things. The eye rolls, the dismissive comments, the sarcastic tone, the questioning of his decisions in front of others. These things may seem small, but they cut deep. A man would rather be alone than be with someone who constantly makes him feel inadequate. This does not mean you cannot challenge him or express your opinions. In fact, a man respects a woman who has a strong mind and a clear voice. However, it is the way in which you communicate that makes all the difference. When you approach a conversation with honor instead of hostility, with wisdom instead of accusation, he will be more open to hearing you. Even when you disagree, speaking to him with respect keeps the relationship strong. One of the greatest tests of respect is how you speak about him when he is not around. A man pays attention to how you represent him in front of others. If he hears you speaking highly of him, defending him, or expressing gratitude for him, it builds a deep sense of trust and connection. On the other hand, if he hears that you belittle him, criticize him, or expose his weaknesses to others, he will never fully open his heart to you. A man wants to know that the woman in his life will protect his name, his dignity, and his reputation. Respect is not just about words, it is also about actions. Listening when he speaks, allowing him to take the lead in certain situations, and trusting his decisions show him that you honor him. This does not mean silencing yourself or diminishing your own strength. It means understanding that respect and power can coexist. A strong woman who knows how to communicate with respect is irresistible to a man. Beyond respect, wisdom is another powerful force that captures a man's heart. A woman who speaks with wisdom sets herself apart from the rest. Many conversations in relationships are driven by emotions, and while emotions are valid, they should not always lead the discussion. A wise woman understands the timing of her words. She knows when to speak, when to listen, and when to remain silent. She does not react out of impulse, but responds with intention. Wisdom is about knowing the right approach. A woman who constantly nags, complains, or criticizes will exhaust a man, but a woman who knows how to address issues with calmness and clarity will always have his attention. It is not about suppressing your feelings, but about expressing them in a way that brings resolution instead of conflict. A wise woman also knows that not every battle needs to be fought. Some things are better left unspoken, not because they do not matter, but because they do not serve a greater purpose. Picking fights over every small detail creates unnecessary tension. Instead, wisdom teaches you to focus on what truly matters and let go of the things that do not build the relationship. There is something incredibly attractive about a woman who speaks with wisdom. She does not waste words. She does not speak just to hear herself talk. When she says something, it carries weight. Her words inspire, encourage, and guide. She does not just react to situations, she influences them. A man will always seek the voice of a wise woman. In moments of doubt, he will turn to her. In times of frustration, he will seek her counsel. When he is uncertain, he will listen to her advice. A woman who speaks with wisdom does not have to chase a man. He will naturally gravitate toward her because he sees her as a source of strength and guidance. Wisdom also teaches you to speak to a man's potential rather than his flaws. It is easy to point out what is wrong with someone, but it takes wisdom to encourage them toward what is right. Instead of constantly reminding him of his mistakes, speak to the greatness within him. Instead of focusing on where he falls short, remind him of how he can rise. A man becomes addicted to the woman who sees the best in him even when he does not see it himself. A relationship built on respect and wisdom stands the test of time. When a man knows that the woman by his side speaks to him with honor and insight, he will cherish her. He will protect her. He will be drawn to her in a way that no superficial attraction can compete with. Because at the end of the day, beauty may catch a man's eye, but it is respect and wisdom that capture his heart. As she sat watching the world go by, something caught her eye. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see if she could better understand what it was and where it was going, but it didn't help. As she continued to stare into the distance, she didn't understand why this uneasiness was building inside her body. A man may be drawn to a woman's beauty, but he stays for her wisdom. Many relationships fall apart not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of understanding and communication. Love may ignite a connection, but wisdom sustains it. A woman who understands how to communicate with wisdom becomes irreplaceable in a man's life. Communication is not just about talking, it is about saying the right thing at the right time in the right way. Many women assume that expressing emotions without restraint is the best way to connect with a man, but in reality, men do not respond well to emotional outbursts without structure. This is not because they do not care, but because their minds process information differently. A man wants to understand you, but if your words are driven purely by feelings without clarity, he may feel overwhelmed or confused rather than connected. A wise woman understands the power of timing. Not every conversation needs to happen in the heat of the moment. When emotions are high, wisdom tells you to pause and wait for a better opportunity. A man will be more receptive when he does not feel attacked or pressured. Sometimes silence is more powerful than speaking. When you hold back in the moment and choose to speak later with calmness and clarity, your words will carry more weight. The way you approach a conversation determines the outcome. If you come to a man with accusations, he will naturally become defensive. If you come to him with questions, he will be more likely to engage in a discussion. A wise woman knows how to frame her words so that they lead to resolution rather than conflict. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel most connected to you when we have deep conversations. Can we spend some time talking?" Instead of saying, "You don't care about me," say, "It means a lot to me when you show affection. I'd love to feel closer to you." These subtle shifts in wording make a significant difference in how a man receives your message. A man's mind is wired for solutions. When he hears a problem, his first instinct is to fix it. This is why many women feel frustrated when they express emotions and the man immediately offers solutions instead of just listening. A wise woman understands this and communicates in a way that aligns with how he processes information. If you just want him to listen, say, "I don't need a solution right now, I just need you to hear me." When you give him clear guidance on how to respond, he will feel more confident in meeting your emotional needs. Wisdom in communication also means knowing when to challenge and when to encourage. There will be times when a man needs to be corrected, but how you do it determines whether he resists or receives it. A man is more likely to listen to correction when it is wrapped in respect rather than criticism. Instead of saying, "You always make bad decisions," say, "I trust your judgment and I know you want the best for us. Have you considered this perspective?" Instead of saying, "You never make time for me," say, "I know you have a lot on your plate, but I feel closest to you when we spend quality time together. Can we plan something soon?" A wise woman also understands that not every battle needs to be fought. Some things are best left alone. If a man forgets to take out the trash once or leaves his socks on the floor, it is not worth turning into a major argument. Wisdom helps you distinguish between what is truly important and what is just an inconvenience. A woman who nitpicks and criticizes every small mistake will create unnecessary tension, but a woman who knows how to let small things go and focus on what truly matters creates an atmosphere of peace. Wisdom also teaches you to listen as much as you speak. Many people listen only to respond rather than to understand. But a wise woman listens with intention. She pays attention to what a man says and what he does not say. She notices his moods, his stresses, and his unspoken needs. When a man feels truly heard, he will open up in ways he never has before. Communication is not just about words, it is about presence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for a man is simply be there without trying to fix, change, or pressure him. A man will feel deeply connected to a woman who knows how to be present without overwhelming him. A woman who speaks with wisdom does not need to beg for attention or chase after a man. He will seek her out because he values her mind, her insight, and her ability to bring clarity to his life. Men are drawn to women who make them feel understood and respected. A wise woman does not try to control a man. She influences him through her words, her actions, and her presence. At the end of the day, communication is an art, and wisdom is the brush that paints the picture of a lasting relationship. A woman who speaks with wisdom will not only capture a man's attention, she will hold his heart in a way that no one else can. Because while physical attraction may fade, a mind that speaks with clarity and a heart that communicates with understanding will always remain unforgettable. As she sat watching the world go by, something caught her eye. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see if she could better understand what it was and where it was going, but it didn't help. As she continued to stare into the distance, she didn't understand why this uneasiness was building inside her body. A man will always be drawn to the place where he finds peace. The world places heavy demands on him, expectations to succeed, pressures to perform, responsibilities to carry, and battles to fight. Everywhere he turns, there is noise, competition, and challenges that test his strength. But when he finds a woman whose presence brings him peace, he will always return to her. Many women believe that they must constantly fight for a man's attention, prove their worth, or demand love from him. But the truth is, a man does not run toward pressure, he runs toward peace. This does not mean a woman should silence herself or ignore her needs, but rather that she should learn the power of creating an atmosphere where he feels safe, valued, and understood. A man spends his days in the battlefield of life, working, building, and striving to reach his goals. When he comes home, whether to a physical home or simply into your presence, he is looking for a place to lay down his burden. He may not always say it, but he desires a space where he can breathe, where he is not judged for his struggles, where he is not questioned at every turn, and where he does not have to defend himself. When a woman knows how to provide that peace, she becomes irresistible to him. One of the greatest gifts a woman can give a man is the ability to be himself without fear of criticism or unnecessary confrontation. This does not mean a man should never be corrected or challenged. It simply means that correction should come with wisdom, not hostility. If a man feels that every conversation turns into an argument, he will withdraw. If he feels that his every move is questioned or criticized, he will seek refuge elsewhere. But when he knows that your presence is a place where he can find clarity, encouragement, and rest, he will crave it more than anything else. Peace does not mean silence. It means harmony. It means knowing how to bring balance to a man's life rather than adding to his burdens. A woman who understands this does not nag, complain, or pressure unnecessarily. She does not turn small issues into battles. Instead, she chooses which fights are worth engaging in and which are better left alone. She knows how to bring up concerns in a way that leads to resolution rather than conflict. A wise woman also understands the power of timing. There are moments when a man is already overwhelmed, and adding pressure to him in those moments will only push him away. If you want to discuss something important, choose a time when he is able to listen with an open mind. Approaching a man with demands or frustrations when he is already dealing with stress will not produce the result you want. But when you learn to read his emotions, to sense when he is in the right mindset, and to speak to him with calmness, he will not only listen, he will respond positively. A woman who provides peace is also a woman who knows how to uplift rather than tear down. The world is filled with voices telling a man where he is failing, where he is not good enough, and where he needs to do better. If you become just another voice that adds to his self-doubt, he will associate your presence with stress rather than comfort. But when you become the voice that reminds him of his strength, his potential, and his greatness, he will seek you out above all others. Being a place of peace does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means approaching them with wisdom. It means asking questions instead of making accusations. It means listening instead of assuming. It means speaking in a way that builds rather than destroys. A man is more likely to open up and be vulnerable when he knows he will not be attacked for his honesty. But if he feels that sharing his struggles will lead to criticism or blame, he will shut down and become distant. Another aspect of peace is emotional stability. A woman who is constantly unpredictable, reacting with extreme emotions over small things, or bringing unnecessary drama into a man's life will become exhausting to him. But a woman who remains calm, who knows how to manage her emotions, and who approaches situations with maturity becomes a source of comfort. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means handling them in a way that strengthens the relationship rather than weakening it. Men are naturally drawn to solutions rather than chaos. If a man associates you with stress, arguments, and tension, he will begin to pull away, even if he loves you. But if he sees you as the person who helps him think clearly, who brings joy rather than frustration, and who adds to his life rather than draining him, he will be addicted to you. He will long to be near you because he knows that your presence makes his life better. A woman who knows how to be a place of peace does not have to beg for attention. She does not have to chase a man or convince him of her worth. He will naturally be drawn to her because in a world full of chaos, she is his calm. In a world full of pressure, she is his relief. In a world full of uncertainty, she is his anchor. At the end of the day, a man does not just want a partner. He wants a refuge. He wants someone who believes in him when he doubts himself. Someone who speaks life into him when he feels drained. Someone who knows how to bring balance to his world rather than add to its weight. When you learn to talk to a man in a way that brings peace, he will crave your presence like air. He will not just love you, he will be addicted to you, because the greatest desire of a man's soul is not just passion, but peace.